We're talking to one of our neighbors in business. This segment brought to you by Northstar Bank, and I'm delighted to have back in the studio Paul Hickman, the founder and owner of Urban Ashes. Paul, good to see you, my friend. How have you been?
I've been good. How are you?
I'm well. Good to have you down here. Tell us about your move to this new facility. You're in Saline now?
We are in Saline. I understand yesterday we had another Saline business, and so Saline is monopolizing the week this week at the show.
I love it. We'll be out at another Saline locale, Kerrigan Cafe, for a Music and Mocha broadcast in a few weeks. What prompted the move to Saline?
What prompted the move is we outgrew our space. We were in with Leon Speakers for several years, and as much as we love being in with them and being right next to Leon Loft, being part of that, we outgrew our space. So ultimately, we needed more space and started looking about a year and a half ago, and looked at a lot of spaces in Ypsilanti. Then ultimately, the space in Saline came up. It took some seeing past what was there, so to speak. It had been underutilized for quite a while, and we had to look at it and say, okay, what can this thing really be? It's the old Johnson Controls factory, and with a lot of TLC and some renovation, so to speak, with the space, we've been able to turn it into a pretty spectacular space for us. It's it's almost exactly 3 times the size of our space by Leon Loft, and plus it's just a lot more efficient for us being in there. We were kind of chopped up over at our space on Ellsworth, and now we're in one big contiguous space, which is great.
How has Urban Ashes changed from when you got started 8 years or so ago? You began by making photo frames, and you do a lot more than that now.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that driving over here today. It's almost 9 years ago to the date. We'd have to talk to our friends at the Arc, but it was standing in line at a Loudon Wainwright show where this topic came up with my friend Jason Bing, and we were talking about trying to come up with a product to expand the Urban Wood Project, which we had already started in 2005 to a national level. And yeah, it became photo frames initially, and then expanded into doing custom framing pretty quickly, where we're doing work with frame shops all over the country. And in the last couple of years, we've sort of come full circle back into what I used to do for decades. I spent roughly 20 years in the scenic arts industry doing restaurant retail interiors, themed environments, things like that. A lot of design work. And so we've been slowly introducing that into our mix the last 2 years. We just did a bunch of work with Bush's, their new location over in Canton. JB Smokehouse did all the furniture in there, their big community tables, which was fun to do. John Bush came in to our shop, and we were talking about the wood and the fact that it came from the Clinton Woolen Mill, literally a block away, 2 blocks away from where their original store was pretty exciting for him. And then we just did a bunch of work for the Detroit Foundation Hotel, or the Apparatus Room, a very hot spot in Detroit right now. Incredible food. I highly recommend getting a reservation well in advance, but amazing space. We were able to do 4 big pieces in there. We're doing a bunch of work with back to Saline. We're doing their dais table, which is the school board table for them, as well as stuff with U of M, MSU. We've also, the other big thing we've added in is we're doing a lot with OEM manufacturing, or that's kind of redundant, sort of like ATM, but OEM traditionally connects in with the automotive industry. So what we're doing is we're manufacturing frames that go to other companies, and they put their product in it and sell it as a finished product. So we've been doing a lot of work with big national companies that are doing that. One of them is a Michigan company called Lake Art up in Harbor Springs. We're doing thousands and thousands of frames for them at a time, which is awesome. Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation, we've been working with them for about a year and a half or so. Those are wonderful to do, to see that we're doing frames made here in Michigan and going around the country out of salvage wood.
Paul, but besides repurposing wood, Urban Ashes is dedicated to repurposing lives. Not everybody may know about this, and I think this is just so admirable. Talk about this a little bit, if you would.
Absolutely. From the beginning, Jason's the one who, Jason Bain, going back to that, is the one that kind of threw out and said that we need to come up with a company that can manufacture all this with a labor force that's focused on working with our returning citizens, specifically people who've spent time in prison. And we've been doing that for now, as you said, about 8.5 years. The company, even though the concept's 9 years old, the company was official in April, I think, of 2009. But we focus pretty heavily on working with the returning citizen or ex-felon population. And what's exciting for us is in the last couple of years, we started working with our local kind of marginalized youth, with specifically partnering up with the Washtenaw County Juvenile Probation Department, and working with them, bringing some of the kids in that have unfortunately, touched in with the justice system already, and being able to bring them in and work with some of the guys. And we have a mix of regular community members that have not gone down that path, and then those who have spent time in prison, and now this youth mix that have had contact, and some we've actually been doing a lot of work with kids that are teenagers this past summer and the summer before that are not connected with that. So one of our goals is to mix them together and to give them some opportunities. But we have our first workshop in a month, less than a month, in October with the Washtenaw County Juvenile Probation Department. We're bringing in 5 kids that are going to spend several hours in our shop working with us. We have one young man working with us who came out of Ypsilanti, who's doing an incredible job. He's 17 years old, had a colorful career, should I say, and has turned it around. And what's amazing to watch is see him working with some of our older guys. We have our production manager in particular constantly says, including yesterday, said, I look at him and that was me when I was 15, 16, 17 years old, except I didn't get the help. I'm going to stand on this kid's head now, and I'm going to work with him and make sure he doesn't go where I went, and give him some opportunities and help.
We're talking to one of our neighbors in business. This segment made possible by our friends at Northstar Bank. It's Paul Hickman, the owner and founder of Urban Ashes. How do people get more info, Paul, about your services and your products? What's the best way to reach you?
Best way to reach us is, and I'm glad you brought that up, is urbanashes.com. Pretty straightforward. URBANASHES.com. And on the homepage, you'll find a brand new video we just did that tells a good story about, or tells our whole story in a little short 4-minute video, again done by a Celine videographer, spectacular guy, Chase Stanton, who does amazing work. I highly recommend him. But check out our video there. That gives you a good insight into our crew, a lot of good interviews with them, a little sneak peek into our shop, the new shop that we're talking about. So I do recommend going to see that.
Good stuff. Good to have you here as always, Paul. Keep up the good work, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Martin.